This week we spoke with Ken Paul, the Executive Director of the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority. Ken has served in this role for just over 2 years, which oversees not just the Greater Columbus Convention Center, but also Nationwide Arena, the Hilton Columbus Downtown Hotel, and several parking garages and surface lots in that area. Our conversation covered what the future holds for the convention and tourism industry in Columbus, how we're going to continue to fund those initiatives, and what a new master planning effort might look like for the future expansion of more meeting space, hotel rooms, and even an Amtrak station. You can read the article on Columbus Underground at the link in the description, or simply stay tuned for the full conversation. So you've been in the position for 2 years now?
Just over 2 years.
I looked it up today. For a second, I thought, I was like, oh, it's been a year. We should talk. I'm like, oh man, it's been 2 years. So
yeah.
So how have things been thus far? Great. Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
You know, I think in any role, your first year, at least my approach was to listen and learn, understand the history of why things are the way they are, build trust, build a team. Fortunate that the team that is very tenured, most of whom have been there for 25 plus 30 years, least tenured member is Michelle now, but before that was our in-house counsel. He'd been there 10 years. So one, earning their trust and respect, and really they had my fate in their hands. But we're super tight and aligned, and now we're adding a couple key team members. Michelle was the first because I realized we needed to tell our story better. We're hiring a capital projects manager to help our single capital projects director manage all the different projects we've got going on, and a second finance person. Some of that's also succession planning, because when you've got a team of people that have been around for 30 years, you can't count on them wanting to continue to show up indefinitely. And there's a lot of institutional knowledge and that we need to be planful on how we pass that on, and we plan for the future. So that's been good. I feel like we're on really solid footing there. Did a comprehensive facilities sort of conditions assessment to make sure that what our stuff was in good order, or at least to the extent we knew we needed to make investments, we had a clear picture of what that really meant, what it would cost over what timeline. So got that under our belt. The arena had done one during the pandemic, actually. So felt good about where we stand. Hotels still relatively new, although there are a number of projects even with new builds that you run into that you have to correct. But the hotel's performing at a really high level, and excited about the future there. And then just last week we put an RFQ out for what I expect to be a year-long, if not a little longer, process to plan for the future.
Gotcha.
Master plan, not just for the convention center, not just for the hotel, not just for the arena, all of those things, but not just for the CFA, but for the community at large. And so how do you take into account the capital line? It seems separate and disparate from the convention district, but it's really not all that far.
It's pretty close.
How do you close that development in, especially with development that's happening along the high, with Nationwide's investment for their centennial Merchant Tower coming online, using that as a connector to the west. We've got parcels that we control that are right for development, but what's the right development?
Sure.
On what timeline? And I don't know that I can speak to the planning processes that the CFA went to before. I wasn't part of them, but we want to be very deliberate in making sure that we're not planning for ourselves, unto ourselves.
Right. Being a part of the larger ecosystem.
So how do you get private developers to the table? How do you get community anchors? Even Columbus State, but certainly Betsy in the short north. Jeff Edwards and Greg Davies, Amy Taylor, the folks that are focused on the business district.
NRI. Major
NRI.
Next door neighbor.
So what are the benefits? I built a really strong relationship with Brian Ellis in my former role, we were on the Experience Columbus board together, and so and the city and NRI have done a lot of deals together over the years, and I was part of some of those, and so that was already a strong relationship. And then he and I, around the arena plan and renovation and modernization, had plenty of reason to talk, but we've been talking more about things beyond just the arena.
Sure,
and the Hyatt turned 45 this year, which means that the Ohio Center that's connected to it, which is Patel Hall, turned 45 this year. The infrastructure supporting all that will need to be replaced, and so the question is, if you're going to make that investment, what does that infrastructure support?
Right.
And is there an opportunity here to improve upon what we have from an amenity standpoint, from an attraction, from a meeting space, from a connecting point from the south of the center into the convention center? And right now, if you're crossing the street from the Sonesta or the Canopy and going into the convention center, there's a big sign. You walk through the doors underneath that sign and you're a little confused because there's some stairs and an elevator. And then some weird tunnel hallway that leads to a parking garage. You're not really at the convention center. And getting to the actual convention center is an anxiety creating experience for our guests. So you can change or reimagine that whole south entrance, improve the experience, improve meeting spaces, maybe add some hotel rooms, and certainly the Hyatt and NRI would be part of that conversation. Those are the types of things we hope to pick up in the master plan, and are super excited.
I have gotten lost in the south end of the convention center just by taking a wrong turn. And like, I thought these stairs went to this spot, and then it's a little confusing, but it's also kind of cool, to be honest. That it's it's a little bit of a maze.
It is.
If you're not time crunched.
Exactly.
I've been if someone's. My daughter said volleyball and it's an A. I'm like, well, we're going to go for the walk.
Exactly.
And it's interesting. I have a whole different perspective in this role of the visitor experience. Because every morning when I come to work, I'm coming into the building at the same time as our guests are. And I know where I'm going.
Right.
I didn't at first. It took a couple weeks. But a couple years, I know where I'm going now.
Getting lost a lot less.
But to see the looks on their faces and the confusion and staring at the signs on the elevator and then getting off the elevator and looking around, for a large percentage of the population, Columbus is the big city. We are the destination. We compare ourselves to bigger, in some ways, maybe what we think are better destinations. The reality for the vast majority of people visiting Columbus, we are the destination. And so there are things we can do better to improve that experience. But you asked the question, and I've talked for 10 minutes on one question, but all of that is really exciting. And it's forward-looking, and it's positive in a time and a space where there's a lot of darkness around us. And so if we can help chart our community's future, bring the community along with us, and think about better days and our best days that are still ahead. That's a cool job. And I'm grateful.
Well, I was going to ask, and I don't want to dwell too much on it, but do you feel like there's a bit of an opportunity or a challenge? I mean, coming out of COVID, thankfully you didn't have to be there managing, like when the house is on fire, so to speak. But things feel like they've been kind of rebounding, conventions are back, events are back. I'm sure, it's nice to see hotel numbers, occupancy numbers going up and up and up, over
most
time.
Definitely. From the CFA's perspective, give an enormous amount of credit to my predecessor and the team who's still there for weathering COVID. They kept people working, they kept the lights on, and kept, we certainly lost ground. But we were stronger than most coming out of COVID. And then right after I got on board, Maria Mercurio, who's our CFO, 30 plus year member of the team, I didn't fully appreciate the exercise when she pitched the idea, but we rallied around this notion that we were going to restructure our debt, refund some past bonds. It was a very complex exercise, but through that we were able to replenish all of our reserve funds.
Okay.
We were able to level out our debt that we had pushed out to survive COVID, but to make it more manageable over the near term and over the term of those bonds. We were able to free up a little cash just through some creative financing to be able to reinvest in the building, because there was a lot of deferred maintenance. Mm-hmm. We're still catching up on stuff we didn't do during COVID, but we're on solid footing and in a good position. I think our capital plan, at least for the center, nothing new is funded, but the most critical investments I think we can cover over the next 5 to 7 years.
Gotcha. And
then the events business is rebounded. People fortunately still want to get together with other people. Mm-hmm. And we're fortunate to be at a position where not only are we like trying to get back to where we once were, we're back. Mm-hmm. We're really focused on where we were with ASAE and PCMA before COVID, of okay, how do we build on a solid foundation and how do we get to the next level? Mm-hmm. How do we get more of those tier 1 events, those larger citywide events? What do we need to do different? Where do we need to make investment? What's our plan? And how do we keep moving forward and growing? And I don't take that for granted. There's a lot of communities in Ohio, but in the Midwest, that's not their position today. Mm-hmm. They're still scratching and clawing to get back to where they were, mm-hmm. and the community that surrounds them don't have an upward trajectory. We just welcomed a new GM from Memphis. It's not to disparage Memphis in any way, but it's a different environment. Mm-hmm. And he is energized by the incredible opportunity that is Columbus. Mm-hmm. Which I think when we're here and in it and we're working through it, and you and I have lived through lots of different things as the growing pains of our community, and,
sure,
and with growth comes challenges and difficult choices. Maybe sometimes we focus on the hard stuff and the difficult choices and things that aren't perfect or we wish weren't the way they are. Mm-hmm. Dean, coming from Memphis, he's like, man, this is a fabulous place. What an awesome place to be to finish my career. And by the way, put 30 years of experience to work to figure out how to get Columbus to that next level. So I'm really bullish on our future. Love the gig. We've definitely gotten back to where we were. We're really focused on the future. We're not comparing our numbers to pre-COVID anymore. It's really year over year. How did we do last year versus this? Yeah. I think we've got buy-in in general and an understanding from the community at large that we're an important part of the local economy, and Columbus has a lot to offer. Mm-hmm. So in a good place.
Nice. So one of the hot button topics of the past month has been the Finance Review Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
Is that the correct?
FRAC.
Yeah.
Funding review.
Yes. Funding.
Funding.
Okay. I almost had it. FRAC is also a terrible, because people think of like fracking out of the ground. Mm-hmm.
So sunny side story.
Sure. Yes.
I'm 50% responsible for that horrible name.
Oh.
because Mike Reese, do you remember Mike? He was Coleman's chief of staff.
Yeah.
I was now Mayor Ginther, then Council President Ginther's chief of staff, and Mike Reese and I birthed the original FRAC.
Yes.
And the awful name that was. And never did I imagine that we would revisit that.
Right.
So many years later, but yes, every time it comes up, and every time somebody says, "What a horrible name," it's like you remember you watched the Christmas Story, that movie, where there's Scott Farkas and there's a friend Scott Farkas. What a horrible name! I feel like every time Frack is uttered, people are just like, "What a horrible name!"
It's the Scott Farkas.
And I kind of chuckle. But it is horrible. But yes, it's an important process, though.
Yes, and there was a lot of to do about the report, and we kind of jumped on it after seeing a lot of people starting to buzz about it on social media, and I think there's like the simplified version of it. There's the more complicated version of it. And in our reporting, we try to preface, like, this is just a report. These are just suggestions, like nothing is set in stone. These are, recommendations. These are ideas, and these are conversations that should be had. And of course, people just kind of lose their minds regardless on social media.
Yeah.
So can you tell us maybe a little bit about what the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority's role has been? I'm not going to say the FRAC acronym again, in that process, because I know that they did like a year plus worth of work in sort of having stakeholder conversations. And so what's been kind of the role that you've had in that from the start?
One, I want to, just because it was there at the beginning and then we just lived through it again.
Yeah.
A lot of credit to the members of the FRAC team. It was pretty high quality people who volunteered a significant amount of time over the course of a year.
It's very comprehensive.
To have really difficult conversations and ones where, as you've pointed out, where recommendations that come out the other end, how they're received, how they're heard. Not every recommendation is going to be equally accepted or popular, and they knew that going in. But they're and frankly. In their individual roles and in their daily lives as corporate or not-for-profit or public sector leaders, a lot of these folks are a champion for these different causes, whether it's arts and culture, whether it's travel and tourism, whether it's human services. Like, these are vested community members who gave a lot of themselves. So a lot of credit to the team. CFA's role, and we worked very closely with Experience Columbus along the way. And I think we were effective and give a great deal of credit to Brian Ross and the team at Experience Columbus. We worked very closely together. I was on Experience Columbus's board for 15 years before coming into this role of making the economic case for the travel and tourism sector of our economy, which has grown substantially over the past decade, and which really contributes and supports other parts of our economy, and frankly helps deliver many of the other services. So that return on investment. We were also careful to point out what our needs are. From Experience Columbus's perspective, but from the CFA's perspective, we care about this very much. It's important to our mission and purpose. Outside of 250 miles, Columbus is still relatively unknown. We have studied it over the years. We've made some progress over time in terms of impressions, but even within the state of Ohio, what Columbus has to offer isn't what you might think for our friends in Cleveland and Cincinnati. And then you go beyond our state borders and beyond the Midwest, Columbus is still a relative unknown. And so investing in sales and marketing efforts to promote the destination is important to our work. But then from the CFA's perspective, to the extent we're successful in bringing people to Columbus, you've heard this, once people get here and they experience it, they fall in love and they come back. It's how we secure much of our business, but it's also how we get business startups. It's how we get new students, new families to move to our community. All that's really important. But when we get here, and from the CFA's core mission and purpose, you have to have the facilities, the building, the infrastructure to actually deliver on the promise. And so pointing out that, we're a okay position in terms of supporting our existing infrastructure. But to go to where we're going and to grow with the region, we're going to need additional investment. And in those, we have not identified where those dollars come from today. Clearly, I've spent a lot of time making the case for the renovation and modernization of Nationwide Arena. That's a need. But so too are, the addition of new full-service hotel rooms closer to the convention center. So too is, bringing our building up with modern expectations for what a convention center is.
Sure.
What the next generation of, those we convene expect, that, open spaces, natural light, outdoor spaces, different feel for the convention center itself. So we'll explore some of that through the master plan, but all of that will require additional investment. What I hope comes out of the FRAC, though, and I think, a couple weeks out, this is where we're moving, is not one or the other. It's not human services or the arts. It's not the arts or travel and tourism, or travel and tourism or human services. It's all of the above. Sure. And it's not about creating false choices or pitting one need against another. It's figuring out, as an adolescent city who's growing into our adulthood and what's next, and figuring out who we want to be, is how do we invest in all of these priorities in a way that we can be proud of the solutions we come up with, and that we don't pull back on support for the arts to support another priority, and that we get real serious about the very real human needs that we have, and figure out long-term, sustainable, comprehensive funding solutions that meet all of those needs. And that, oh, by the way, travel and tourism isn't a nice to have or something that you do if you've got a couple extra nickels in your pocket, but that is actually an important part of our economy that actually generates revenue that support both the arts and human services. And I think we're there. The initial responses were probably, and understandably so, defensive posture.
I think something that, and perhaps I missed something, but to me it felt like the FRAC report was it was completed, it was handed over to the city, done, it went online, and it was kind of left for people to find and come to their own conclusions about. And I think there could have been some sort of messaging, some sort of announcement, some sort of press release synopsis sort of thing that said, hey, we're done with this, and here's our talking points, or here's what we really want to highlight. And instead it just left people to say, oh, we want to turn the dial on this revenue source from 27%, I think it's 27% for GCAC to 0. And everyone lost their minds, which rightfully so, because that's alarming. And it is more complicated and it is more nuanced than that. But I think that just led to the conditions where everyone's everyone was kind of in the dark a bit.
Something an old boss used to say quite frequently is that people don't fear change, they fear loss. And it was perceived that there would be real loss. And when you don't explain, no, this is not about taking, and it's not about shifting resources from one to the other so that one is advanced and the other falls behind, but that this is just about rebalancing, recalibrating, and restructuring how we invest, and finding new revenue sources to invest in all of our community priorities. I won't speak to the rollout.
Sure,
My gig getting longer.
I missed something, we don't get that press release.
You're right.
But I looked around and saw really no sort of announcement about it. It was just sort of PDF went on a website.
Well, something even in our follow-up exchange too. There are a number of other recommendations that were made that haven't really gotten a lot of time and attention.
Like the rental car fee and some other things like that.
I don't believe that there is any intent. We did not advocate for, and are not now thinking that, you know, to the extent any of those move forward, whether it's rental car or I'm trying to think of the appropriate term for the delivery services, but delivery services or ride share.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate benefiting from those revenue streams. We'll see where those conversations go, but and frankly, there isn't a clear path for the CFA in terms of new revenue streams. Certainly, we advanced a proposal and are still working it to fund improvements at Nationwide. Advanced in the ticket tax increase just at Nationwide Arena. That issue has come up again just this week for funding other priorities. I expect that's not the last conversation. There's real opportunity there, but beyond that, I think there's still a lot of room for conversation, and frankly, the real work starts now. And this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Sure, yeah.
And I expect that the city and the county will create the opportunity for all stakeholders to come back around the table. So we have these ideas, here are some recommendations. Certainly we've made the case for the need on all accounts. What are our priorities? First things first. What do we need to do to help advance any of these ideas, in what order? And so I think the conversation is just starting there. I think one of the greatest strengths of Columbus is that we're collaborative by nature. I think we work together much more closely than most communities do, even in difficult times and when we're all feeling challenged. I think we can come together, the arts, human services, travel and tourism, other community needs, and figure out how we're not leading with a scarcity mindset where we're trying to take something from someone else, but we're all working together to figure out how we all get what we need. So there's opportunity there.
Sure, yeah. Something I want to come back to real fast. You kind of mentioned, the sort of the name recognition of Columbus, kind of the branding, both from, a tourism marketing perspective, but just kind of the general, temperature of the rest of America when they think about Columbus. Just to play devil's advocate, two cities that have had some of the best, branding campaigns, I think, of the past 20 years. Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Like everyone has heard and knows that, and Nashville is kind of uprising as the Vegas of the East. It's a destination. Nash Vegas. It's bachelorette party central, North Broadway. I have seen some articles talking about how tourism in Vegas has fallen off over the past couple of years or months. I don't know the exact time frame, but things are kind of down. And I don't know if that's just a cost, if it's the infrastructure in the city, like what the true cause of that is. But there is some buzz around that. And then just reading an article about Nashville earlier this week about how specifically the Broadway strip has just become so overrun, with $18 cocktails, it's $50 to park, it's crazy just to swim in a sea of other people who are just there on vacation. Like it's lost a lot of what made it the city's heartbeat, and it's become more almost like a tourist trap sort of thing. And so I wonder if Columbus doesn't benefit from the fact of high expectations, that sort of magnet appeal that can very quickly kind of turn south in some ways.
I will tell you, one, for someone in my position, I'm not as well traveled as you might think. I always joke with folks that I'm not selling other destinations. I want people to come here.
Yeah.
But I have started to travel more, and I have gone to
walk around other cities, convention centers a bit.
But visited Nashville not all that long ago for the first time, and my takeaway is we don't want to be Nashville.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is our goal.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal is to create our own identity,
Mm-hmm.
our own brand, to leverage, I think, what are some of our greatest strengths, which is a sense of community, openness, welcoming, a progressive, inviting city that frankly is easier to get around and to enjoy all the things that you can get in other cities, but are just frankly harder to do. We are still a value destination, even if we notice prices going up and things cost a little more. By comparison, we're still a great value for most of our visitors. I think we'd like to shed a little bit of that value proposition because we don't want to be viewed as cheap.
Yeah, the budget city.
Because we're better than that.
Yeah.
But I think where we're at today is not the end game. It's not our final destination. And there frankly are a lot of investments we're making as a community that I think just will improve our community for our residents, but will also enhance the experience for visitors. So if you look at bus rapid transit and investments in moving people around and connecting our community, being thoughtful in how we plan out different districts, including the Gay Street area that you'll be living through, that's going to improve the visitor experience also. But we're charting our own path and our own future, not with the goal to be anybody else, to be Las Vegas or Nashville, but to be the best version of ourselves we can be, and frankly to tell our story a little better about who we are today. The example I like to lean on and where I make the case that marketing matters and investment in that matters is pure Michigan. And in Central Ohio, home of the Buckeyes, talking about Michigan is generally off limits in those circles. But
it's a great campaign.
It was highly successful, but it was heavily funded over an extended period of time, still to this day. And the reality is that there isn't anything in Michigan that Ohio doesn't have. But Tim, the Tool Man Allen, convinced you that Michigan's was better. It was pure. It was different. And it was worth the drive to come see for yourself because it's amazing and it's better than what you have there.
Yeah.
And there's power in that. And I'm not saying we need to have a pure Columbus a message campaign. But it is, yes, Columbus, which is our current campaign being led by Experience Columbus, is a step in that direction of helping people understand what we have to offer and who we are today and where we're heading, what the city we hope to become. So, I'm excited about that, but I don't want to be Nashville.
Oh, of course. No. Yeah. Just using them as an example, almost of like a victim of their own success to a degree. Totally lost my train of thought. Yeah. Well, so I mean, I read a lot of, urban planning, blogs and YouTube essays and all these kinds of things. And a lot of what they sort of talk about is if you want to build a great place for people to visit, build a great place where people live.
Yeah.
And the
absolutely.
visitors will just come. They want to spend time there. So like if you build a good downtown community for residents, by nature, people are going to want to spend time there because it's walkable and it's inviting and it's safe and it's open and it's
absolutely.
All those sorts of things. I wanted to come back a little bit and talk about sort of the properties because you did mention that there are there's the convention center, Nationwide Arena, the Hilton, several parking garages, and then a couple of surface lots. And there's been different plans and ideas and concepts. I remember from the 2012 visioning project that Keith Myers helped to spearhead, the field house idea, which I was in love with. I thought that was great because you see so many sports from the volleyball tournaments to the gymnastics tournaments, all this sort of stuff in the main convention halls. Having a dedicated space for that And I think the idea was that east lot, that big long lot between 3rd and 4th. Is that still on the table, or are other ideas, or is that site looked at as like a future sort of, do we need another hotel over there? Do we another parking garage over there? Everything over there?
I think the answer is to yes to all of that.
It's a large space.
So we actually were just having a conversation last week about this, about digging up all the different previous plans and studies and analyses that have already been done and having them ready to hand off to the consultant team that leads this master plan effort. Because it is not as if we've not contemplated some of these things before. So it's really figuring out, what ideas have we talked about before? What have we actually accomplished? Where do we stand today? And what's changed? And where do we want to go? So we'll certainly pick up some of those ideas we've discussed before. There's been conversation also about a bus route, transit station somewhere on the convention center campus. We've done a rail study, and we're actually co-applicants with MORPC on a new federal grant application to take that to the next level. I would love to see an opportunity where you could tie in BRT and passenger rail at a centralized multimodal transit station at the heart of the convention district. That could be central to a new development. We do need, and I'm not prescribing what the answer is, but we do need more full service hotel rooms within a half mile of the convention center to support future demand and frankly our current business that we're going after. There are improvements to our buildings that we need to make and how they function. So certainly that'll be taken into account. But I think something that we haven't done before is figure out we've got this giant aerial view of our campus on a big board in our conference room, so I stare at it all the time. How do you take this giant mass of building in land that's smack dab in the middle of some of our most activated neighborhoods and important business districts, and use this thing to actually connect them all? And so rather than being a barrier or an obstacle to getting from downtown to the short north, or from the Discovery District or Columbus State's campus to the Arena District, how do we use our assets as a connector? And to your point, how do we make it better for our residents and build that connectivity in that will, by the nature of the investment, help attract visitors and create that same pedestrian friendly, that safe, connected environment where people can move around. A real small example of that I'm super excited about, with Merchant Tower, there's been investments along Park Street and on Spruce, which are natural connectors from the convention center through North Market to the Arena District. There's an opportunity on Vine Street, which I think there's a real opportunity to work with Rockbridge and to lean in to figure out what that looks like. You then have all four sides of that development. That is the block that connects the center from Arnold Plaza to the Arena District. Be thinking about those alleyways with the string lights across and the outdoor indoor spaces and streetscapes that are inviting, that feel comfortable, where people are moving freely in and about the area and connecting one from the other. That's a relatively modest investment that we can do in the near term, sooner rather than later. The other end of the spectrum is blowing up the whole south side, and I don't mean that literally.
Sure, yeah.
But reimagining the entire south side of the convention center, the original Ohio Center, and having that be a gateway to our downtown business district. that's much more substantial in scale.
Yeah.
And will require a much more thoughtful approach, and one that it will be executed over 5, 10, 15, 20 years,
Sure, yeah.
not in the next 5. So all the ideas in the past still on the table. Hopefully invite new ideas, new stakeholders to add to it and figure out what's possible.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty awesome opportunity.
Yeah, I mean that's always the challenge, right? Is looking at things from that 40,000 foot top down view, but then thinking from the pedestrian experience. Because when you look on the east side of the convention center, 3rd and Summit it's a highway off ramp.
Yeah.
So there is a bike lane that a lot of people think is one of the most dangerous spots in the city.
It is.
You're dodging
Yeah.
cars,
Yeah.
getting off and on. There's only a sidewalk on one side of 3rd. The other side doesn't even have a sidewalk, and so the connectivity outside of the convention center, the things that would fall on the city of Columbus or even ODOT for some of the highway stuff, seems like it takes a partnered approach to get some of that sort of stuff done.
It will, and sometimes it starts with a vision of what's possible.
Yeah.
So, making those important infrastructure improvements are for a larger purpose, and it fits into a broader plan, and they complement each other. So if you can understand what you're connecting people to, where are they walking from to what, making the investment in the physical infrastructure to make it safe, to remove barriers and to connect people from point A to point B becomes more saleable.
Yeah.
And the prime example is one I return to time and time again, and it's right outside our north doors. The CAP, which if somebody who's if you've moved to Columbus in the last 20 years, you would never have known anything different. If you stand outside the north doors of the convention center and look to the short north, you just see continuous buildings and a safe, walkable path from the convention center to all your favorite restaurants, bars, and galleries in the short north. It didn't used to be that way.
Yeah.
It was a highway overpass with suicide fence, and it looked really dangerous and scary. And it was a physical, emotional, psychological barrier from the convention center to what is now our prime attraction for visitors in one of our most vibrant neighborhoods as a city. The CAP, if you step back and if you go back 20 years, seemed like a crazy idea. Well, you're gonna build an overpass big enough to put buildings on? You don't put buildings on overpasses, you put cars on overpasses. We changed that way of thinking, and it made a world of difference. It took a lot of time, energy, and effort for people to wrap their heads around it, and now we don't know any different. And so it's that type of thinking that I think we need to return to plan the next 20 years, and to do it in a way that we're including more people in the conversation. And by the way, government and public investment isn't making these plans on their own in silos and then coming out of the room and saying, here we go, community, don't you love it? It's actually inviting private developers and other stakeholders, other public entities like CODA to the table to help plan it together. So I don't know, hopefully you're starting to sense my excitement in all this.
Sure, of course,
it's possible. It's not pie in the sky, what could be, or planning for sake of it, of making a plan or dreaming because it's more fun than living in the present. It's really about being thoughtful about where we're headed.
My wife and I went to a show at Mad Lab, and we didn't realize it was the night. It was Friday or Saturday. It was the night the Arnold was going on. I think it was the Crew home opener. The Blue Jackets had the game, and we walked. It's only like a mile to walk, and it was a nice night out. And as we got closer and closer, we're like, oh yeah, there's a lot going on. But you saw how many people park in sort of the warehouse district area and walk to the Arnold. And, me, just constantly pedestrian I'm just like, this is a very unpleasant walk. You're just parking, it's just seas of parking lots. You're walking past, Abbott Labs and past the highway off ramp, and it doesn't really feel safe, but it's the back door to get to the convention center. And so thinking through how to improve that on your property and off your property,
It's gotta be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, even, Nationwide Boulevard, for what it is, looks nice enough now. A lot of
It's
money,
great, yeah.
not enough money is invested in streetscape. It's much better than most, but there's still it's still very car centric.
Sure.
And
But it's got
even getting
pedestrian
people
crossings mid-block,
It
which
does.
goes a long way.
It's a lot better than it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
We can do better than what it is. And that's got to be part of the conversation. And certainly, you're absolutely right. From the further east you go, the less pedestrian friendly and connected it gets.
Yeah.
And with the growth of the region, and as we learn to do more, and there are more nights on the calendar where there are 4 or more things happening at the same time, because that's what we're really trying to get to. We're gonna have to do better there, and we can. And we still have the time and space to do it, but it's not gonna. It's not gonna happen on its own. Like you gotta, or to the extent it does, what ends up happening is piecemeal investment, where it's easiest. The hard stuff doesn't get done. Only the easy stuff pops up, and it's stuff that pops up in places that maybe, in hindsight, you would have done it differently if it had been planned properly.
Right.
And I want to avoid a situation where you have to go and undo investment.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity to do all of the above.
Cool. One final thing, I was at an event hosted by Brian Thorpe at the convention center a couple of months ago, back in November, about the potential Amtrak.
Yeah,
and it was.
You attended. I should have been there.
Yeah, it was the.
Thank you for being there.
All
Aboard Ohio.
All Aboard Ohio. Thank you. Yeah, so it was a lot of train nerds, myself included. But there was a lot of just excitement at how seriously the convention center was taking the process. I don't know if there's been any updates since then. I know these things move very slowly, but
so if interested, I would check in with our partners at Morpsey.
Yeah.
But it may be worthwhile to take a look at the grant application we submitted. We're hopeful that we could maybe learn of a grant award even late summer, which would be really fortuitous. And our approach to our master plan has even contemplated this. Rail will be part of the master plan exercise. To the extent we're successful in winning this grant, we may actually phase it out so the rail portion, or the passenger rail station portion of the master plan, might come later in the year-long process, because that could help us with our local match to leverage those federal dollars and really maximize our investment in planning efforts around the passenger rail component of the master plan. So it might be interesting you just look at our application.
Sure,
Do you
yeah.
want me to send you a copy of that?
Yeah.
Would you also like a copy of the RFQ for the master plan?
Sure.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
It's not that long.
Yeah.
It's not the FRAC report.
Right. Yeah. It's like 600 pages, but a lot of it was like the appendices. Yeah. I'll look at anything.
But Garrity's been a great partner. Prague, Morpsey, obviously William and I have worked together closely for a good long while, and we're lockstep on it. I appreciate a fellow train nerd, Walker. I don't know that I'm a train nerd. I'm certainly a passenger rail advocate. I think it's an important part of a comprehensive plan to move people around. It has been frustrating to me that for all that we invest in roadways and in airports, that somehow the United States of America has not picked up on the fact that you can move people around quickly, safely via passenger rail. It exists on other continents, and I'm not entirely sure why we haven't embraced it here.
A lot of people in America romanticize about going on a European vacation and taking trains everywhere, or to Japan, or to these places, and it's like we could just do that ourselves here.
We can.
Yeah.
And I hope and expect we will.
Yeah.
I'd like to think we'll still be living when it happens, but the first step is making some of these first steps happen. So 3C plus D is important, but Midwest Connect also is a real opportunity from Pittsburgh to Chicago through Columbus. That can be real, and sooner rather than later. And if we can map that future out, but then also look at a potential future north-south BRT lines, the potential for light rail from the airport to downtown, there's no, in my opinion, no more logical, rational place for all that to converge than our campus. So let's plan for it, let's allow for it, let's create the circumstances that will help bring that about. Do the hard work and make it easy when public sentiment and the resources align and we can execute. So I'm excited about it. That is not the master plan in and of itself, but it's a big component of it. And frankly has the potential to change the whole game. So we'll get you the grant application and the RFQ for the master plan, and we'll just stay close on. I think where we wanted to leave today is one, to make sure we were accessible to you. And on these issues, build on, I think, existing relationships, but remind you where we are, where we sit, and we're happy to talk anytime you want to about any of this stuff.
Appreciate that.
And we value what you do and appreciate your role in the community, and I think it's more important than ever, frankly.
Well, thanks.
So thanks for making the time.
Yeah, no, thank you.